So let's begin now with part 2, the verbal resume, the 2-minute resumes. And let's start with reasons for a verbal resume. Well, first off, it is a brief bio to 3 common and important questions. The first, tell me about yourself. Probably the most frequently asked question in interviews. Second, why are you looking? That's asking about your current situation and what's happened to make you start looking for a change. Third, what do you want to do next? That's asking about your future, your target, your future focal point. So the verbal resume is designed to provide a concise 2-minute recap of your past, present, and future, which sets the tone for the rest of the interview. But why be brief? You have a lot of life to tell. You can't wait to tell it all. Well, here are the reasons why be brief. First, more is less. Give them value, not volume. When you ramble, their minds will amble. I love what Will Rogers said. He said, the more you say, the less people remember. Secondly, less is more. By being brief, you cover breadth instead of depth, which means the listener selects areas about which they want to know more. Pay attention. This is a key read. Some people try to cover both depth and breadth and end up sounding like a square. Finally, your goal is to get your foot in the door, not in your mouth. Solomon writes in Proverbs, when there are many words, transgression is unavoidable, but he who restrains his lips is wise. Or in the Oristilian trilogy, least said is soonest mended. So let's take a look at some design concepts related to a 2-minute resume. By the way, there are 2 examples of 2-minute resumes, again in the Seeker's Notebook. There are 3 major slices: life history, which runs about 90 seconds, transition statement, which runs about 10 seconds, and a focal point discussion, which runs about 20 seconds. Life history also has 3 slices: pre-work, which takes about 20 seconds, past work, which takes about 40 seconds, and present work, which takes about 30 seconds. Your 2-minute resume should both begin and end with a question and kicks off with an early exclamation. Well, let's explain. Let's take a deeper look at each of these components, beginning with the opening question and early exclamation. The opening question. Someone asks you, well, tell me about yourself. The first thing that you're going to do is answer their question with a clarifying question. They ask you, tell me about yourself. You ask them, is there anything in particular you want me to cover? Or maybe you say, anything you want me to specifically mention? Based on their answer, you know whether your 2-minute resume is good or needs to be adjusted on the fly to meet their needs. And then comes the early exclamation. The first thing is to ask the question, but then the second thing is to make a statement, a declaration. You want to tell them the theme of your story. Something like, I guess I've always been. Then simply tell them in a single statement what will be the thread running through your answer, the backbone running through your meaty points. For example, I've always been interested in the dynamics of change. Well, then the rest of your 2-minute resume better talk about change and dynamics that take place in your work life, in your real life. Here's another example. As long as I can remember, I've liked to take things apart and put them back together again. Again, your 2-minute resume then would take this theme and embellish it as you give examples of all your work life. Here's a couple of more. Since I was little, I enjoyed building things, starting with nothing and making something. Or finally, I've always liked working with people from different backgrounds, different points of view. Each of these are examples of that early exclamation that is a declaration of your story and the theme that you're about to tell. Next, let's look at life history, made up of pre-work, past work, and present work. Pre-work runs about 20 seconds. It covers things like early childhood, growing up, family, education, degrees, your major. It's good for creating chemistry, building relationships through some common beginnings that you may share with the hiring authority. It is a lot to cover in a short time, only 20 seconds, so pick what's relevant to what? Oh yes, your focal point. Past work runs about 40 seconds. It's your early work, highlighting achievements with transitions that support a direction or support your theme. Doesn't have to be a job by job. You can cluster jobs together in periods of employment. For example, after working with BigCo, I worked with 3 different pre-IPO startups. You don't have to name them. You don't have to go through them one at a time. This is more moving from sub-themes that support the main theme. And then comes present work, 30 seconds. It's the most recent work, and again, highlighting achievements. Notice that you spend most of your life history time talking about your most recent work, which is what a hiring authority is most interested in. It's kind of answering their question, what have you done lately? We wrap up the 2-minute resume with the transition statement and your focal point and a closing question. The transitional statement runs about 10 seconds. Wish there was a simple formula to give you, but all are as unique as your specific situation. So be brief, just 1 or 2 statements. Factually state what happened and why. I resigned, I laid off, I was fired, whatever it is. If there are 2 ways to present the truth, present the positive future over the negative past. Be positive, be upbeat, future-oriented. Talk about it being the best thing that happened. It was great timing. And as much as you were in control, claim you were in control. For example, maybe even right now, even though you haven't landed a job, you might think that losing your job was the best thing that has ever happened to you. Well, then say that. That's part of the transition statement. Focal point? Okay. Now's your chance to tell them what you're after, the ideal job. Paint the picture. Tell them that you're looking for a specific type of position in a specific type of company or industry or size of company or stage of company. And now, you're not done until you pass the baton back to them. You need them to talk for a while. You've been talking for 2 minutes. Gives you a chance to learn key information from them as they have just gotten from you. So if you are on an employment interview, ask something like, well, enough about me. Tell me how you got into this line of work. Or, well, that's my story. Tell me a little bit about what are the biggest challenges you face in your work here at ABC Co. Now let me give you a couple ideas on how to develop your 2-minute resume. First off, write it down, practice it, trim it down or beef it up. get it down until it's right at 2 minutes. And then outline what that 2-minute resume looks like in outline form. And here's the key. Memorize the outline, not the speech. None of us are professional actors. If we're under stress, it would be terrible to be in the middle of an interview and not remember word by word the speech that you had prepared for your 2-minute resume. But you can remember that the outline only has a few points because it's only going to take 2 minutes, and you'll understand the organization of your ideas. That's what you need to practice. And keep on practicing it. Keep asking others to ask you about who you are and tell me a little bit about yourself. Make sure you've got that down, because once that's down, you can exercise it anywhere. Some people will ask, what's the difference between a 2-minute resume and a 30-second elevator speech? You know, I've never been in a situation where I've been on an elevator for 30 seconds and wanted to just stop a conversation and jump out of an elevator. But the last 30 seconds of your 2-minute resume picks up the very tail end of your last job you had, talks about the transition statement, and covers the focal point, what you're looking for. That makes a good 30-second version of this. But anytime you give this, you need to be always ending 30 seconds or 2 minutes with a question that re-engages them into the conversation, where you can learn information about the ideal candidate or information about problems that they're facing within their business. Well, now let's move to part 3, the written resume, or the 2-page resume. And likewise, much like we did with the 2-minute resume, let's talk about reasons for having a 2-page resume. There are good reasons and not so good reasons to prepare a written resume. Far too often, job seekers spend an inordinate amount of time perfecting their resume with the hope that it will be some magic bullet that gets the job without any real heavy lifting. I love what Nellie Barkley, the co-founder of Crystal Barkley Corporation, once said. She said, "The extraordinary emphasis placed on resumes encourages passivity. Job seekers often believe that it's enough to mail hundreds of resumes, then sit at home waiting for the phone to ring. But the world does not come calling on those who simply lick stamps and walk to the mailbox." Simply sending out resumes randomly is confusing activity with productivity. But developing the perfect resume requires hard work. Many people struggle with telling the story of their life. So should you prepare your own resume or hire someone to do it for you? Our answer, develop your own. The byproduct of resume development is interview preparation. When you build a resume, you build self-esteem. So gut it out. Do the hard work that's required, but build your own. There are 3 good reasons to prepare a written resume, but be careful. One is before interviews, where a resume serves as a door opener. Your resume can be used to open doors. However, be careful. If you can open a door without it, do so. In other words, if the door is already open, like through networking, don't offer up a resume. You can always sell yourself face-to-face better than any old resume can. Another reason to prepare a resume is to have it for during the interview, where it might be used as a discussion outline. Your resume is not your life history, but instead a current snapshot of what you've done, which invites questions on how you've done it. However, be careful that the hiring authority doesn't spend more time relating to your resume than relating and building a relationship with you. And then the third reason is after an interview, where it can be used to direct others. Your resume can be useful for the interview as a reminder for a future reference, or in communicating your credentials to others within the company. However, be careful. It may not be needed. Simply ask at the end of an interview, would it be helpful to you to have a copy of my resume? If yes, give them not one, but 2 copies, one for themselves and one to pass along. Now let's look at designing and developing your written resume. So, here's a question. For whom are you designing it? Who do you want to read it and be impressed by it? Well, there are lots of different answers. One might be the hiring authority, or a recruiter, or a screener, or a scanner. Of all these possible readers, hiring authority, recruiter, screener, scanner, the hiring authority is the most important. Your resume should first be prepared from their point of view, their frame of reference. It is not so much what you want to say, it's figuring out what they want to see in you. Here's a hint. If you have a sequence of items, say a bullet point list, sequence them in order of importance as the hiring authority would want to see them. So here's another question. Should your resume be 1 page or 2 pages or more? Here's a hint. Resume should be designed like a woman's dress, long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to create some interest. 2 pages versus 1 page. Well, it really depends upon the level of position you're seeking, executive versus staff level. Here's what was reported in Office Systems. The best length of a resume depends on the job you're applying for. A recent survey of executives of the 1,000 largest U.S. companies conducted by account temps found that 64% prefer to receive 2-page resumes from candidates for executive positions. 73% said they prefer to receive 1-page resume from applicants for staff-level jobs. So 2 pages or 1 page, first off, depends upon whether you're executive or staff level, but it also depends upon your time in the workforce, whether you're a rookie or a seasoned player. Use a 1-page resume if you have maybe only 3 to 5 years of work experience with only 1 or 2 employers. Don't try to beef up too little and try to make it fill 2 pages. Use a 2-page resume, if you have experience. Offset maturity with accomplishments which require space. Never conform your life to fit a single-page limitation. And then there's too long, more than 2 pages. Some people will tell me they have a lot of history to tell people, a lot of things and accomplishments to relay. Well, it's a resume, not an autobiography. A long resume suggests that you have serious communications problems. You are unable to present a concise document covering the essence of you. It does you more harm than good. So drop the detail. You don't need to tell the whole story. This is not a court case, but an advertising piece designed to attract interest. Leave some of the details for the interview. Bullet lists should present exceptional items, not a laundry list of too many items. Drop ancient history. 10 to 15 years back is enough if you're trying to save space. Capsulate early work. Well, here are a couple of more questions. Who is the first person who is going to review your resume? The hiring authority or a screener? That's right, a screener who may not know anything about the work you do. How long do you think it takes a screener to review a resume? Well, here's the answer. Less than 5 seconds to reject. Think about it. That's what they do. It's their job. Let's say a company places an ad and receives 1,000 resumes. The screener is an expert at rejection. They don't select 3 to 5 finalists. They reject 995 or more. Screeners are looking for a reason to reject your resume as they make each pass over it. And they make 4 passes. Look, scan, read, study. The look pass is, does your resume have a professional look? Does your resume have eye appeal? Is it easy to follow? Can I easily identify your focal point or the job you are seeking? Then there's the scan pass. Is your resume formatted with eye-catching phrases to make someone pause and think? Does the important information jump off the page? Your resume should be designed like a pachinko machine. You know, that game with all the pins sticking out. When the ball drops, it can't just fall through from top to bottom. It bounces off pins on its way down. Just like a screener's eyes, you want them to bounce off points you make. After the scan pass comes the read pass. Can someone easily spot your core competencies and credentials? Are your achievements quantified, and do they sell the story? If you've made it past the first 3 passes, comes the study pass. Would the hiring authority fall in love with you before they were 2/3 down your first page? Does your past work support your future focal point? Finally, well-designed resumes follow a priority of presentation which goes like this. Top down, left right, page 1, page 2. Which means the information most valued by the hiring authority should be at the top, on the left, and on page 1. That's the way people read here in the USA, top down. For example, the most important piece of information at the top of your resume is, get ready for this, your name, not the word resume or curricula vitae. What? You think without labeling it, we might confuse it, for a menu or something? Likewise, current history should be closer to the top, while ancient history, like your education, should be further on down. In a list, the most important items should be at the top of the list. In a sequence, the most important things should be at the first of the sequence. So first, top down, then left, right. Most important pieces of information should be on the left-hand side of the resume. For example, which do you think is more important? The name of the company for which you worked or the dates in which you worked? Where you worked or when you worked? Hey, the answer is where you work. So the company name should be on the left and the dates should be on the right. How about page 1, page 2? More important information should be on the first page of your resume. Many people put their educational background on page 1, Hiring authorities are less interested in what you know from your education and more interested in what you've done with what you know, which is your experience. That is why many types of resumes have a center stage, right in the heart of page 1, to highlight key information that could be overlooked on page 2. More about center stage design a little later. As a final note, some of you may need to prepare a scannable resume in addition to your official resume. Don't confuse the two. Your official resume is designed to be read by the hiring authority. Your scannable resume is designed to be read by an optical scanning device. Its formatting is so simple and plain to make it easy to be machine readable. That is why it may be unappealing to a hiring authority. Here's a hint. When a scannable resume is requested, ask where you can also send a people-friendly resume. There are many styles and many types of resumes. We're going to talk about 2 different styles and 4 different types. The first style is the chronological style. It is the most popular type of resume. There are several examples of the chronological type of resume in the Seeker's Notebook. Style in a chronological style is that this resume is designed to quickly present your experience, starting from the most recent and moving backward in time. Under each job you held with each company, you describe your best achievements while working there. The strength of this style is it is the best for someone continuing their chosen career in the same profession because it's easy to track career progression. But the shortcomings are it may bury your best work too far down. Plus, it starts off with your last job, whether that was your best or worst. For example, if you got fired in your last job, whoa, great. Let's lead off with that bit of news at the top of your resume. Alternatively to the chronological style is the center stage style. The chronological resume is the only one without a center stage. Resumes with center stage style quickly present the information in a center stage on page 1 before presenting any of your experience. Each different type of resume, hierarchical, functional, and technical, presents some different information in each center stage. The theory behind the center stage style is to put up front, right there in the heart of page 1, information about you that will make the reader fall in love with you. As Proverbs says, but love covers all sins. So if they're in love with you, by the time they get to your experience, wow, that means they're still in love with you. It is a predispositioning technique, getting someone to think positively about you before they go any further. Once they fall in love, their mind is biased to think favorably about what they read from that point forward. That's good advertising. So let's talk about the 3 types of center stage style resumes. The first is the hierarchical type. There are several examples, again, of the hierarchical type of resume in the Seeker's Notebook. The hierarchical resume is designed to quickly present in the center stage 4 to 6 of your best attributes coupled with your best achievements, independent of where and when you accomplish them. The strength is that this is best for highlighting your best and giving hiring authorities what they want to know about who you are and what you've done, right there at the top of page 1. Also, you can aggregate achievements across jobs to show lifetime achievements. Shortcoming is it's a little non-standard. but it's becoming more widely used because of Career Transition Workshop. It may be a little bit overpowering as well for someone wanting to kind of plateau or drop back in their career. A second style of note that's related to the hierarchical resume is the leading achievements type. Some people develop a leading achievements type of resume, which is designed to present in the center stage a list of their best achievements without linking them to any of their attributes. Just simply go the extra step by coupling each achievement with an attribute. A second type of center stage resume is the functional type. There are a few examples of functional type resumes also in the Seeker's Notebook. Here, this resume is designed to quickly present in the center stage 4 to 6 of the key functions associated with the position you are seeking, along with key achievements that you have accomplished under each function. Imagine a pie chart where each slice represents one of the major functions associated with the position you are seeking, not counting any administrative time. For example, if you were seeking a chief financial officer position, some of the functions of the job might include financial planning and analysis, capital budgeting, financial reporting, investment relations, treasury, cash management. As another example, if you were seeking a sales management position, some of the major functions of that job might include direct sales, training, marketing, sales management. Note, if you don't know what the major functions of the job are, you probably should not be going after that particular job. Looking at the strengths of this type, it's best for someone who has performed all the functions of the job but may have never ever really held the title. For example, someone changing careers or re-entering the workforce. Another strength is it's easy to match a resume against the job specifications. The shortcoming, however, may be that it sends a signal to the hiring authority that you may not have recently held the position. The final type of center stage resume is the technical resume. There are only a few examples of a technical type of resume in your Seeker's Notebook. This resume type is designed to quickly present in center stage the technology platforms associated with your work, the tools of your trade, your profession. For example, if you are seeking an information technology position, you might list the hardware, software, operating systems, database management systems, network architectures in which you have gained competency. Here, the strength is that it allows the hiring authority an opportunity to quickly accept or reject your candidacy based upon whether you have the experience with the desired tool set. If they are looking for someone, for example, with Oracle experience and you don't have it, you won't waste their time and they won't waste yours. Shortcoming may be that it delays getting into your experience and achievements. Now, let's look at the basic organizational outline of a resume from top to bottom. At the very top, the first thing we'll discuss is the headliner, made up of your name and contact information. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the marquee. It comes next, and it declares your focal point or the position you seek, plus a thumbnail sketch which summarizes and highlights why you are right for the job you seek. Next comes the center stage for the hierarchical, functional, and technical resume styles. Next comes experience. Now comes all your work history, starting from the most recent and working back. Your work history will include each of the companies with each of the job titles you held while working there. You will flavor these items with a company byline and some description about the jobs. Finally comes closing credits, where you wrap up your resume with several key items like military experience, if you've served our country in that way, education and training, and any relevant professional and personal associations. So let's take each of these sections and discuss the design guidelines you'll follow.